Decorating Pages is a podcast dedicated to taking you behind the scenes of the designs of your favorite TV shows and films. Each episode, I'll be sharing design stories from some of Hollywood's most famous sets. Interviews from set decorators, production designers, directors, and actors about creating the look of TV and film, about their design inspirations, and stories that take sets from page to screen. Hello, and welcome to Decorating Pages. I'm your host, Kim Wanup, and I don't even know how many weeks I've had off. So I'm in that zone, which is really awesome. And I think I got a show, so now my days are numbered, and then it's a bummer. Because you make a list when you're off of shit you gotta do, and you take one thing off, and then you add two. So I don't feel like I'm making any headway of like getting shit done in my life, but it's been nice. It's been super nice having off. And all of this rain, it's a lot, I know, for people in LA, I know. But it's been nice to like sleep in. Like, thank God I don't have to work in it. Working in the rain in Los Angeles sucks. So I'm super glad I don't have to work in it. And just loving all the little thunderstorms, and it feels like fall a little bit, but I know we're all over it, and I know we need some sunshine, so I'm sure we'll be sweating our balls off this summer, so just settle down. I didn't do a lot. Did I do a lot this week? I don't know what day it is. I know what day it is because I'm doing this the night before, so I always... Not that I wait till the last minute to do this, but I think, I have time, and then the weekend is booked as usual, and then it's Monday. So, yeah. But the strike negotiations had their first meeting today between the producers and the WGA, and I was reading Deadline about it so I could talk about it. And quoting, neither side is giving up full details, but sources suggest that the initial vibe from the room is that despite all the talk of a potential strike, a deal can be reached. So that's positive. There we go. I feel like they're going to strike. As I said, I don't understand how they're going to negotiate all this, but because it's all about compensation, and it's all about... They're going to have to give up their numbers of what's being streamed and how many times it's being streamed so that you can get compensated, right? Am I dumb? Maybe I'm... But quoting, a goal is to keep production active if, the negotiations go longer. So that's something. We work through it, I guess. I don't know. I know that the DGA and SAG and AFTRA have already said that they would follow the WGA, so that's like full stoppage, people. That's like, we're not crossing the lines, right? IATSE 44, we're not crossing the lines, right? I don't know. I would be on a show, I'd be prepping. I don't know. I think we should have struck. Why didn't we strike back then, a year ago? Damn. I really think we should have. But anywho, just that, and hanging with my kids and my poor son Leo. He fell and he got 2 staples, and that was traumatic and probably took a year off my life. But he's okay, and he's such a trooper, so much blood-ish, and then he barely cried. So that's cool. I tell you this, I'm glad that I was here. I'm glad that I was off and with him when it happened, because you're not with your kids every moment of their life. We got to live our life. So I have been spending a lot of time with them, and we're continuing watching superhero movies. Tonight we actually watched a little bit of Wonder Woman, which I like that movie, not the 84 one. That's shit. But the look is great, but the movie shit. But the Wonder Woman with Gal Gal Gadot, who's a gorgeous. There's some good stuff in there. They were like, who are these bad guys? And I was like, oh, they're Nazis. And I'm like, oh, this is too heavy. And then I just fast forward to like the fight scenes, and they like that. And then we made little armor cufflings out of toilet paper rolls. Like, that's them. Yeah. And I put some glitter on them, and they're pew, pew, pew. Yeah, it was great. So that was fun. But other than that, I have been waiting for Boston Stranglers to start on Hulu. Is it plural? I'm not sure. Production designer John P. Goldsmith and set decorator Sophie Carlhan. Don't know. I'm sorry. Fantastic job. Fantastic. Period piece. Boston Strangler was in the 60s, early 60s. And, big newspaper office and the people's homes and people's apartments and all the vintage cars. And I liked it. I did not know this story about the two female reporters who gave the Albert DeSalvo the name, the Boston Strangler. So that was new. I love Keira Knightley. The other chick from The Leftovers, I think she's good too. She kind of looks like the chick from Manhunter and from The Last of Us. Now I'm thinking, is that the same girl? Oh, shit. I didn't look that up. Huh. Those two chicks look alike. But whoever it is really good. And I liked it. It's on Hulu. I would definitely suggest taking a look at that. I know I said last week I gave up on Lawrence Arabia, but we did go back and watch another hour of it. It's gorgeous. And what is really funny to me is I was looking up, and Peter O'Toole was basically like an unknown when he was cast in the film, and it said other people who had been up for it, and the one of the days this week, the boys and I watched Supergirl with Helen Slater from like 1984, I think. And Peter O'Toole is in it, but like bad Peter O'Toole, like yuck. And Faye Dunaway is in it, which is like ridiculous. Like, it's so campy and so stupid, but I loved that movie when I was little. So they watched, and then I had this memory of, oh my God, I worked with the director of Supergirl. He directed a lot of episodes on Bones. Jeannot Schwark. Funny guy. Was he French? I think he was French. Really funny. And I had conversations with him about Supergirl, and him telling me what a nightmare Faye was, and all of the drama and such. So I had forgotten that I stalked him back then and was doing my own podcast way before it was a podcast, and making him tell me stories of Supergirl. I don't know. This is awful. I don't know if he's still around, but I might seek him out to be on this, because he's got a hell of a resume. So maybe I'll try to get on that. But I really want to start watching Luther on Netflix, which I thought was a series, but it's a movie. That was a great show on BBC. I don't know if you've seen the movie. Tell me if it's good or not. Am I wasting my time? Is it not up to par with what the series was? Maybe let me know. And speaking of letting me know, I had 2 super nice emails or messages this week of encouragement and appreciation. And when someone like takes the time to reach out for me to say that these stories and these interviews that they're listening to are helping them to move along, and to know that they are on their own path, and know that they're doing it right, not wrong, I'm so overjoyed. And I, as much as I bitch of like, this is hard to do, it is hard to do. It is kind of hard to do, but I love it, as I've always said. So those little notes really do help, because it's like, okay, I know I'm not talking to myself here, which is nice. I know I'm not talking to myself because I know my numbers, but Thank you so much for reaching out. And I really just appreciate the encouragement. It's very humbling. So, the other thing is, I found about an hour in the wee hours of the morning to make myself even more busy. And I started designing more like merchandise stuff and like funny little movie quotes and cups and stickers and bags, and it's fun. I'm enjoying it. So I wasn't gonna promote this because I didn't think about it. And as I was writing this opening, someone just bought something, and I was like, oh, maybe I should promote that. So check it out on Etsy. It's a Decorating Pages shop, and I'm adding pieces all the time. And they're designed by me, and they're cute. Check it out. I mean, and the decorator quick reference template that I have on there, that's done really well. So thank you to everyone who has purchased that, and I hope that it's helping. I hope it's making your life easier, because that's what it's all about, right? Yep. On this episode, I speak with production designer Jennifer Möller, whose recent film Sick on Amazon will make you think twice about taking that mask off after COVID. The horror film has a fresh take on the dangers of living through the pandemic. I think this is one of the first films that is about the pandemic, and it's a horror film, so it's worth it. Jenny has been focusing on production designing films like Wildcat, Happily, and Wishing Upon a Unicorn, among others, and she's also been art directing projects in between. So we talk about Sick and her experience about jumping back and forth with art directing and production designing, and that path, how that takes you there. You can check her work out and her design process. She's got some beautiful sketches and everything on her website, jennymöller.com. So I hope you enjoy.
But I wasn't sure what he was doing. It turned out to be a much bigger deal than I thought. So I was like, yeah, you guys can't come.
Yeah.
This is not okay. No, we're not doing this.
What are you working on? Can you say, or?
Yeah, I'm art directing. I'm not designing this one, but it's a Netflix project with Jennifer Garner and Ed Helms. It's called Family Leave.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, it's a body swap family comedy. McGee directing, and we built the house here on stage. So.
Oh yeah, nice. I did hear about that. I've heard about that project, and I worked with Ed Helms. Not that he would know me, but he was very nice.
Yeah, everybody seems to be really, really great. Jen Garner is lovely. She was, especially during prep, she was great coming in the office and checking things out and complimentary. Ed, I think, signed on pretty close to starting to shoot, so he wasn't really involved with any of that.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard any complaints, and every time I'm on set, they're lovely.
Well, there you go.
So,
that's all you want to. Yeah. You don't really want any input from the actors anyway.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Except for compliments. All I want is compliments.
I want compliments. Well, I actually talk to the actors a lot in the beginning before I've done anything. Yeah. But at this stage, I'm like, I don't want to hear anything from you at this point. I can't change it.
No, I used to think differently, and then you get an actor's opinion, you're like, I'm sorry, what? Like.
No, yeah. I guess, yeah. I go to the actors for backstory and character things like that. Yeah. Especially.
We're usually on so much longer than them. Like you're saying, like Ed just started. Right. You've been on for months. Like,
Right.
So.
But sometimes I have enough time with them. When I have time, I go to them and find out, like, how do you feel your character is? I think this and blah, blah, blah. Because, it's important, as you know, that they feel connected to the space that they're in, especially if it's their personal space.
Yeah. I always feel like the designer should be in on the tone meetings. I'm always surprised that the production designer doesn't go to those meetings.
Because I go to them when I can, if I know that it's happening. I tend to make myself try to get involved in that. And I've never really had anyone say no, know.
I think maybe in TV they're not as much invited then maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, you would only have one on a film, so that would be good.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and then you talk about it all a million times.
Yeah.
Later,
no, I know.
You know?
Talk about it to death. I don't know you, so hi, how are you?
Hi. Yes, I don't know you either.
always sort of kind of like jump right in because it's sort of like, oh, I'm just going to talk to this person. It's going to be
yeah, it's going to be great.
We're simply all in it together. So there's already camaraderie. We all know how great
it's such a small business actually, you know, and there's so few of us who get to do this job and it's honestly, it's the same job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we all go through the same thing every time. So it's like, I know exactly what you're going through. You know exactly what I'm going through.
Yeah.
You know, so.
It really is such a love. And then the how hard it is, but also how brilliant we all are that we all are able to pull it off. Is really what's so spectacular also about our jobs. And like, as much as you want to bitch about it, I always think like, I bitch about it and then we pulled it off. So look who's awesome. Like,
I know my husband's constantly saying, like, my husband works in government.
Oh, wow.
And he's never worked in television or film. And so, you know, he's a really good touchstone for me when I start to complain about my job, you know, because it's still a little dazzling to him. He doesn't understand it. And he's like, first off, someone brings you lunch every day. Like, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I get, okay. Just like, that's the tip of the privilege iceberg, you know?
I know. So, the food.
Yeah.
Tempting us with second meal pizza really gets us.
But so it's like, every once in a while, it's really wonderful to just stop and think about how lucky I am that I get to do this, you know, and that I have been successful in it. And I do consider my career a success. You know, I'm not exactly where, excuse me, let me just, I'm not totally where I want to be yet, but you know, I don't know that I ever will be. I think that's part of, you have to have that personality. You know,
I think it's hard too, because I have many friends who are art directors who production design, and you go back and forth when you really just want this direction. And it's the same thing if you're working in TV and you want to do movies. Like, but I have this opportunity. This is a good project. I don't want to miss out on it. I have a constant fear of missing out on something. Like, I
have FOMO like you wouldn't believe.
Oh yeah, I should have took that. Like, it's gonna be a hit. I should have took that. Or that sounded too easy.
Incapable of saying no to things.
I'm very
you know, and it's tough. I mean, in the last couple of years, I've gotten better at it. Turning things down that I know I'm not going to enjoy doing. You know, and I've had to learn that lesson a couple of times, you know, and then listen to myself through it. Like, I shouldn't have done this job.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I said to my lead man, I was like, this is it. This is the last big show. We're going to multicam. We're going, like, I have to promise myself and him, like, these mental.
You're not going to multicam.
No.
You're not going to do that.
No. But it seems
like the thing multicam. It's great, and I've done it. But it's not the same.
No.
You know.
No, I don't. But I think at some point I gotta take it down a notch. I'm really gonna kill myself, but I don't want to.
I mean,
I don't want to.
A season or it's fine. Take a break. Do that. You know.
But then
I stayed on Ellen show for 3 years because I was falling in love and getting married, and you know what I mean. You know, the minute we got married, I was like, I'm quitting this job and I'm going on vacation.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I was always like, I'll go out of town, and then I met someone, got married, and had kids, and then they're like, oh, this is happening in Albuquerque. This is over in Atlanta if you want to go. And I'm like, where were you 5-10 years ago? I could have gone anywhere, and now you're asking? Like, no, I can't go anywhere now.
Yeah.
Like,
luckily we still go. My husband works from home, so
mine too. Aren't they lucky?
Actually, I could never work from home. Even when I do, I've done a couple of movies where I start 2 weeks at home or whatever, and I'm just not nearly as productive as I am anywhere else. But my husband and my son come with us. So they're come with me. So he's still young enough that I just think we're teaching him resilience.
Right. Not every day's the same. You have to bounce around.
Right. We messed up his sleep pattern, but he'll get over that.
Yeah. I think about that all the time of like, oh, I kept him up. Oh, well. I don't think my parents ever gave a shit. Like, they did what they wanted to do. They didn't even, my mom gets mad. Or like, we talk about schedules and shit. And I'm like, no, it's kind of good for them. I don't know. We probably should have been on one. I don't know.
Yeah, just come home when the streetlights are on. I'm like, did you even care about me?
No. Like, I was trying to explain that the other night to my boys. I'm like, I used to play tag outside with all these kids. And then when it got dark, I went home. Like, no, yeah. I would never let you do that now.
Did you grow up in Los Angeles?
No, that was like South Jersey and Philly. So,
okay.
Yeah. Where'd you grow up?
Texas, and New Mexico. So.
Oh, nice. Well, I was just talking to production designer Denise Pizzini, who I know, and she's from Texas, and she was in Albuquerque, and she's going back to Albuquerque for jobs.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. How'd you get into this? How'd you get from Texas to here?
Oh, well, I was going to be an actress.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was going to win an Oscar acting.
Nice.
Yeah.
But now you'll win an Oscar for production design. You don't have to.
Maybe. We'll see. I studied theater and acting in school, and that's really where my passion was and where I thought I needed to be. So I'd always loved LA. New York scares me, and it's it's claustrophobic for me. So I was just like, nah, we'll go west. And when I got here, I did a couple of things, but the camera and I don't get along that well, and it's not the same as theater acting, So I was sort of bouncing around trying to figure out what I wanted to do with myself. And a friend of mine was a production designer, an art director, and he was asking me, he was like, so is your friend still available? I need a PA. And I was like, what about me? So that's how it started. And I just did every job I could do up through the art department until somebody called me and said, hey, you want to design this movie? I was like, hell yeah. It was actually a PA I hired.
Oh, see that? You never know.
Exactly. Because I remember somebody telling me that once, like, be nice to everybody. You never know. The person who's getting you coffee could give you a job one day. And I was like, yeah, okay. I mean, I'm always trying to be nice anyway, but sure,
Well, I think about that all the time. I think about it all the time.
and then it happened to me. So, and I did that movie. I think I had a $5,000 budget.
Wow, that must have been fun. Was it horror?
Yes, it was horror. It was a horror anthology called Southbound, which actually got some great reviews. Paul Thomas Anderson said it was one of his favorite movies of the year.
I saw the clips on your website. I mean,
it was a lot of fun to do, and God bless Robert Greenfield at Warner Brothers.
Always.
I went with my hat in my hand, and he gave me a flat rate that I have sworn never to mention, but was made it possible for me to do a good job on that.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, he's a gem. How do you switch hats easily, or do you think you don't?
It really depends on who I'm working with.
Yeah.
And I have not always switched hats easily. I have to say, it's something that I've had to step on a lot of toes, and I've had to piss some people off to really figure out, and I've had to be pissed off.
But we all do that. That's all Sometimes you have to micromanage. Sometimes it's just your own, in your own head, whatever the project is, whatever that set is, you have to do it sometimes. It is, and everybody does. It's not a...
and I don't typically it's not something I dwell on a whole lot. But I've had to check my ego, and I've had to realize that a lot of times my ego gets involved because of either fear or inexperience or insecurity, and that's when I have to just take a breath and sort of figure out where it's coming from and let that go, because everybody's learning new stuff all the time. Not everybody has the answer, and so I feel sometimes that I'm supposed to have the answer immediately all of the time, and when you don't, it's distressing to me.
It's also that we're all trying to be so creative. We're all trying to get the answer or to get to there to solve our problem and everything. And sometimes some people talk too much and you just want to solve a problem. And I get like that. Like, I don't want to talk about it anymore. I already said that we're doing this. That's what we're doing.
I agree. And as a designer, I'm very much like that.
Yeah.
And I have my process, and I'm very upfront about how it is for me. I love collaborating, and I don't care where the idea came from. I really don't. I'm not one of those people that it has to be my idea. It just has to be a good idea. Definitely. But I also have to think it all through myself. And then if I'm stuck, I'll go to my decorator or the art director and say, what do you think? I can't get there here. I need you to do this one. Or here's my idea. How can you make this better? What do you got for me?
Because it's all collaborative. We all got to get through it together. I mean, we all gotta.
Yeah, I can't do the job alone. I can conceptualize it, and I can tell you what I want and what I think, and what the director's telling me they want and what they think. And as long as that doesn't change too many times, I think we're okay. But in terms of going from designer to art director, I have much more respect for an art director than I ever did before I designed, honestly.
Right.
Yeah. So it's really my job to make sure that this person's idea gets across, and they got the job, not me. So I'm not going to second guess what they're doing, and that's where I've had trouble in the past, where I thought I knew better, and I didn't. So that's where I've had to check my ego and just sort of take a breath. And so I try to do that now all the time. And
I asked that because it's, again, fresh on my mind, because I just talked to Denise, who was a set decorator and is now a production designer. And I said, I don't know if I'd be able to do it really, because I would constantly be like, I think there's a sofa in Warner Brothers on the 3rd floor in aisle 12B that might work. Like, I feel like, and she's like, no, you wouldn't, because you have so much other shit to do. You wouldn't actually do that. And I'm like, I guess.
No, you wouldn't. And then in a couple of years, you don't even know it's out there anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? Like, and I've got there too, because I designed a bunch of tiny movies.
Yeah. And
it was like me having to go do the shopping or all these other projects. So I knew what was there. And now that I have no idea what's there anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I can't tell you where to go.
Yeah. I was just like, I don't know how you did it. The first couple jobs, like, in letting go of, like, the set decorating. And she's like, you just have to trust people. I'm like, oh, you're nice. I don't think I could do it.
The designer I'm working with right now, Jen Spence, has been it's been amazing to watch her because she allows people to do their jobs.
Nice. Yeah.
And she really trusts people to do it. And so it's been great watching. And what I find is that everybody works better, faster, and with more heart when they're given the space to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. As opposed to being micromanaged.
Because you're trusted. When we're trusted in our positions, we can do it. Like, I feel like, it just grows. And then I don't want somebody to talk to me anymore at some point. Like, we got it. We talked about it to death. I'm doing it.
Right. Agreed. And when I'm designing, I don't want to have to go back 100 times either.
Yeah. Yeah. It's exhausting.
It's not every relationship is great. Not every designer and decorator are going to be great together.
No. And that's fine. And that's so much. It's almost like dating. Like when you're dating and you're like, well, I dated that guy and that was awful, but at least I know now I don't like to be treated like that. Or
Right.
for this reason, now I know I'm not looking for that kind of guy. Now I'm not looking for that kind of designer.
There you go.
It's like,
and it's and the same thing for me. It's like that's now I know.
Yeah, now I know.
What? Yeah.
So. I had seen the preview for Sick, and because I don't know, ever since I had kids, I'm a pussy, and I can't watch scary shit or anything too much. And then I was like, ooh, that's scary. I don't know why I watch that. And then I was like, oh wait, now I gotta watch that movie.
Oh, and yeah.
I gotta say, it's got a hell of a twist to it. Yeah. Hell of a twist. And then I actually was like sitting up in my seat of like, wait a minute, where is this going? What are they saying? Wait, why are they killing these people? It really is a great twist on such current events. So I need to know, when did you film it? How much prep did you time? And did you get COVID filming? Did anybody get it?
I did not have COVID.
Good job.
I actually didn't get COVID for the first time until this August. And it was because of my child.
There you go. Me too, in November. So, yes.
We did this in 2021. And I sort of came to it a little late in the game. So I didn't have a ton of time. We shot in Utah. In Ogden, Utah.
It's gorgeous. My God, it's gorgeous.
North of Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
And I was so lucky. I got like the best crew in town.
Oh, that's great.
The decorator, his name was Gabe Jessup, and he was just fantastic. And I was nervous because first of all, it wasn't Salt Lake City. It was, but I guess everybody's from there. And I just had no experience with Utah, and I had a really hard time finding certain positions to fill.
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with a mixed union that doesn't have a whole lot of strength, everybody is doing 15 jobs. My art department coordinator had been driving transpo vans for the last 2 years.
Multitasking.
Well, but Gabe was always a decorator and had always done that. So it was like I felt really comfortable with him, and then we just sort of hit it off. And we did a lot of the shopping together. And then when we couldn't find what we were looking for, we made it. And he was incredibly resourceful in being able to find somebody to do what we needed to do. Especially furniture, all the upholstery and changing out things and stuff like that. So I was incredibly lucky with him and his crew. And then, so we had, I think, about 8 weeks, maybe.
8 weeks prep. And I like to guess what you built.
Okay.
I think you built, but I've also seen your boards, so then I'm kind of cheating. But the rooftop scene, did you build that? You built all that?
No, the building. So the house was a location. The big house, obviously, I didn't build that.
Right.
We gutted it and then refurnished everything in it that we could. And then there was another house on the property that had a green roof. So we retiled that and then swapped out all the windows.
Oh wow.
And then they changed some of the stuff in Visitex. So when you see the box fly through the window, that was all practical. And then the girls come out and walk. But that was a different location, and it was only 1 story up. So we augmented that, and then I built that whole room inside. We paneled it and did a lot of texturing and painting on it and built the trap doors and things like that in there.
I love that trap door, that whole thing. That was such a genius sort of like, and it's such a great tense moment of like.
It was, yeah. We were like trying to figure out how to do that scene.
That's so great.
And the director and I just sort of walked in that space, and it was like this tiny little room, and it was like, well, how are we going to make this work? Because I think this is what we're going to have to do. So, because we were trying to figure out how to actually have them because there was a balcony in the main house, and you see her jump down into that space when she comes off the roof.
Right.
We were trying to figure out how to get the stunt people on that roof, but that roof on that house is actually a tin roof that's pressed tin to look like shingle shake.
Right.
Shake. Is it the
shingles? Shingles, yeah, shaker shingles.
Yes. Yes. So the wooden shingles, and it's heated.
Oh.
So, yeah. So if we had somebody clambering all over it, we would have just damaged it to the point of having to replace it. And as we found out, a lot in this house was old enough that we couldn't get it again. They stopped making it. It was like anything.
Yeah, you don't want that coming up at the end of how much money you owe for people's roof. You don't want to.
That was not going to happen. I mean, the producers were willing to go so far, but not there.
It's a huge house. At least, I mean, so many rooms, and I really loved how tight the hallways were for the chasing scenes and everything. I felt like that really claustrophobic of the panic and of running from a killer.
It did, and the height of the ceilings. Yeah, it was also high ceilings. The house, it reads so much bigger than it feels. You know, like in any space you walk in and you're initially stuck with how big it is, and then you spend an hour there and you're like, oh, it's really not that big, you know? So the hallways had nice runs to them, but they were not as long as you think they were. You know, there was some fancy footwork going on there. But yeah, it was a log cabin. I mean, it's an actual giant log cabin.
And were the bedrooms all there? Did you build any separately, or?
That was all there. We got it. We removed all of the furniture from everything. So there was the house itself, I think, had been owned by a family where the first owners, not the current owners, the woman and the husband were, one of them, and I don't know who, had an accident and was in a wheelchair. So their bedroom's on the ground floor, and there was an elevator in the bathroom that went between the two bedrooms, upstairs and downstairs. So the husband and wife could just go to the elevator up and down between their two bedrooms. So they could hang out whenever they wanted to. So we used that.
Oh my God.
Like, we couldn't put the elevator in the movie, obviously, but that was a fun, it helped with our moving of furniture for sure. But yeah, we didn't build anything inside of the house. And they were very precious about the walls and the floor. So it took the decorator and the lead man, you know how it is.
Oh my God, I'm sure.
Like, you know, you see a wood, it's a log, you want to put a nail in it, right?
Oh yeah. No. Well, you got a lot of artwork. You got a lot of hanging pieces. You got a lot of antlers going on. I mean, command hooks only hold so much, and then the poor on-set dresser's like, oh, that fell in the middle of the scene. Like,
yeah, we utilized a lot of spreader bars because of the way the rug was hung in the entryway. That was up high on a spreader bar because it was easy because the way the walls were shaped, the spreaders actually worked really well, padded up in there. So they utilized a bunch of those off camera.
That poor neighbor, first of all, that poor guy, that kitchen, is that on the premise?
That was that little house in the front. That was some sort of guest house. Again, we repainted everything and brought it. That was sort of, they were using that as like storage and weird stuff. And then, so we're just lucky to have that as the neighbor's house. We got really lucky in terms of finding everything on this one piece of property.
God, yeah, lucked out because it's such a memorable house. Like, it's like where you want to go if you have COVID and where you want to hang out for a couple of weeks and like.
Pretty impressive. Yeah, it was
beautiful.
You know, it's a family that had a ton of children. So there were a bunch of rooms that we didn't even go into. And then downstairs in the disco area where you see, I guess this had been a retreat of some sort. So there are a bunch of really weird, random massage rooms down there.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
okay, David Koresh.
Storage. We didn't find anything weird.
Oh, well, that's good. We've all found some weird shit cleaning out people's bedrooms, and you're like, why can't people clean up their stuff before we get there? It's crazy.
I know. It's really.
It's so weird.
This place was well cared for, and they had this family actually had I guess the site rep, they had been working on this particular property for years, so she just knew where everything was, and it was really, really helpful.
How long did you shoot at the property?
I think we were there for 3 weeks.
Wow, yeah.
A while, and then we had a couple. We were in Salt Lake City
because you were night. It was the whole thing's at night.
Yeah, most of the time. So I was doing from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day. So I was at set or opening up or doing what I needed to do there with the director, and then would start at 10 a.m. doing and getting everything ready for everything else. And then the decorator and his guys were off doing what they needed to do. It was really great that he was so good with his time as well, you know.
Right.
Sometimes they're on their own time frames.
What was the apartment building? I swore I was like, oh, this isn't Hollywood. I feel like I've been to a party there. But now you're telling me it's in Utah, so I know I wasn't there.
Yeah, it's a building downtown that was vacant. That I think and I'm pretty sure they've shot something else scary there. It was very cool.
Yeah,
and I'm surprised it's still vacant because it's one of those buildings that has so much character, and there were so many other apartments in it that would just have great original fixtures and, you know, all hardwood floors.
Yeah.
It was a dream location.
Yeah. Plus two, I always think like, oh, and there's so much blood, they like you either have to put down like a fake floor, or you have to like hurry up and put in another wall for the blood splatter. Like there's just constant resets in doing a lot of horror films, and even in that house.
I don't think they had to redo that much. I mean, in terms of shooting, I'm pretty sure John, he shot it in a way that he was going to get the most out of each one, you know? So like when we had multiples of everything, you know, all the breaking doors and things like that. And that we shot, that scene actually was the very last day of shooting. And so I wasn't there for most of that shoot, but I know that with all of the other stunts and things, he sort of backed into it, you know? So they do it a couple of times without breaking things or without really, you know what I mean, getting the action down, and then he'll do 3 takes and he just made it work, you know? John was incredibly decisive, and John and Ron, his cinematographer, worked really well together, and they knew what they wanted to get. So they
were prepared. That's crazy.
Oh yeah, he was incredibly prepared. And John's just he was really into it. Like I took the job because I really liked him. You know, he's just a guy. He just knew what he wanted. He presented just completely solid. You know, and he followed through on all of that. There was just no equivocation, which was really great. You know, when somebody knows what they want. And he was just like a really calm presence. Nice. You know, which is actually in this genre rare, you know?
Right. Because you get wound up and you have to get excited about it, and like you're going to go for it, because it's a lot of adrenaline when you're doing all these shots and running it's a lot.
Yeah, and we you know, was very excited about making the movie, but he's a contained person, you know, and so it was really, really great to work with him. And I think after he saw the first set, he was just like, "You got it. I don't have to ask you another question."
Oh, that's awesome.
You know? It was great. It was really great. And he's one of those people, again, that, you know, believes in putting the right people in the right place and letting them do what they do.
Nice. I was wondering, was the type of house called out in the script, or like how many houses did you see scouting before selecting that one?
This actually, they had pulled several houses, and like I said, I got there late. So I think they had scouted 3 houses in the area. The lake really was
key. Yeah, you needed that something there. Yeah,
and so I don't believe the house in the original script, and it's pardon me that I can't really remember because I've just spent so much time with this one.
Yeah,
I don't think it was supposed to be this grand. But I think that this is what they found that worked with the lake and with everything. And so this is where they went. And the other houses that I looked at, I didn't even go see. We went to this one first because this is what everybody liked. We weren't locked in. John was very clear about, if you don't like this and you can't make this work, we'll keep looking, but he was like, I like this one. And I got there, I was like, well, I can see why. So yeah, this does everything we needed to do. The original house, I think, had the script had like called up for a bunch of French doors and windows. So I don't know that it was supposed to be a log cabin. It was supposed to be a big lake house. And that was sort of it. I think like the rug in the entryway was something that we came up with because the original script, it was curtains of some sort.
Oh, right.
Like so balcony curtains or French door curtains that would happen. And there was just no way for us to do that here. And I was like, well, why don't we put a nice tapestry here and you guys can just totally mess it up.
Yeah. We'll buy 10 of them and you can do what you want. Yeah. Well, I think jackpot because the house just seems like it's such a character because it's such a big presence on screen. I think he shot it beautifully, of like just making it not that it was like a scary Amityville type house or anything, but it just
and we made a very conscious effort not to make it like that. There's also a whole storyline that got cut from the film that Parker has a younger sister, and the sister had died, and that's part of where Parker's trauma came from, and her inability to connect with people, and her issue with her parents. She sort of says something about dad in the movie, but like they get further into it in the script. And so we did dress a child's room in the house, and that was the only room in the house that we put anything personal in. So if you notice, there's no family photos in the house. There's no, it's not super warm and cozy. We were really going for earth tones and luxurious in a sense, and I wanted it to feel very comfortable, but cozy and lived in, not what we were going for.
Right.
The idea was that they literally come up a couple times a year. There's somebody who comes by and looks at the house, and they have no family memories because this was the place where they had spent so much time with the younger daughter. And so they were all, repressing their feelings and in that sense, pushing each other away by not dealing with the issue.
I would have to say, I'm kind of glad they took that out.
That's
just a different direction of like, because the reason why these people are being stalked is such a reveal that seems like another movie.
We were getting into why she was making out with Benji in the first place. And,
I see.
Getting into her backstory of why she was pushing
the guy,
her personal boundaries and why she was making out with this guy at all, I think they were trying to give her just some more depth.
Right.
And you're right. It doesn't need it. I didn't even realize it wasn't there until I went and looked at my boards. And then I was like, oh, I totally forgot we did this. Like, okay, that's just gone.
Yeah.
And you're right. It didn't need it. The way that they shot it and the pace of the story really,
yeah, it
kept going without all of that.
I also like that she fought back. Like, it wasn't, it's not someone just being stalked and killed the whole time. It's like she kicks back, she punches, like, it's reality. I hate to say if it was reality, I would hope that I would be able to like kick back or something. But I don't know. I hope I would have it in me, but
that was John was very conscious about that too, and he wanted these girls. We always knew they were going to make it. but we wanted to make you root for them and care for them. And Gideon was just so great, you know, and so vulnerable in the way that she presented. And so was Beth. Beth was great. The girls were just adorable, and, you know, adorable is probably not the right word. They were
they were cool. I liked them. And then I was like, oh, this girl is from that Renee Zellweger one I watched. I'm like, oh, that's where I know her from. She was in like a Renee Zellweger did like a killer TV movie like last year, but there's something wrong with Pam or something, and she played
from the podcast. That's right.
Yeah, so she played the daughter in it, and I was like, that's where I know her. Like,
okay. Playing that game. She was in Blockers, I think.
Blockers. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think also I have to ask because I always butcher everyone's name. Is it Möller? Möller. Okay.
Yeah. Well, there's an umlaut. So in German, it's Möller.
Yeah. I was like...
In Texas, it's Möller.
Möller.
So.
JennyMöller.com. You have on your webpage a tab that is process, which I think is wonderful, just to show like how we got there. And like you have just your drawings and your finish boards and just idea boards, and I think that's a wonderful thing to show when you have a project or for anyone to look at, because it takes a lot to get there, and sometimes I look back at my boards and I'm like, oh, we completely changed that.
I mean, if you look at this, the house doesn't really look anything like those boards. You know, it started out as a Ralph Lauren ad.
Right.
And then through lots of conversation and lots of, you know, sort of thinking about it, we really sort of pared that down and went much more modern with what we're doing. Yeah. With, you know, you can see on the sofas, there's some Pendleton type fabrics and things like that, but I really ultimately just didn't want us to get in our own way.
Right.
You know? And this was a project that was really sort of about the movement. You know, lots of lamps, lots of practicals, not just because the DP asked for them.
No. Well, too, like I said, like it's all at night. I mean, majority of the film is at night. So you're just dependent on it.
Yeah, but we also wanted things that I wanted things in the foreground and, you know, that you had to move through, like sort of creating these islands of space, you know.
Yeah, and that kitchen island, too, is like a genius place to put the scene around and make use of that. Great.
Because, you know, when you're there, you're like, oh, I would notice a dead person over here, you know? I would know that. And then you're like, well, maybe I wouldn't.
Yeah.
And it afforded us a lot of leeway, especially because the way it was scripted, the kitchen and they weren't supposed to be that open. Yeah. So giving a space like that, and with John, where he placed the bodies in the kitchen, you know, it was easy to think, okay, so they can be over here and not realize what's happening over here.
Right.
Especially if they're focused on torturing a young girl.
Yeah. I gotta say that I love the twist of it, and then the scene at the end when they go to that barn is kind of like, oh my god, it's one last try. Come on, let's get out of here. And you, like, the engine never turns over, and you're like, oh.
It's definitely the horror movie trope, you know, like. You know something's gonna happen. Yeah. You know they're not getting away that easy. You know, and when my husband watched it, he knew a few things, but he was like, are they gonna get away? Are they gonna get away? Is it over? And I'm like, well, the sun's coming up, so you know something good's about to happen. I mean, rarely does anything bad happen when the sun's up. Yeah,
and then I was like, oh man, they don't have shoes on. Like, they gotta walk. What are they doing? Like reality of things pop into your head sometimes. Like, you always have to suspend, you know, belief in movies and everything, but then like some things catch you and you're like, damn, I have shoes on. Man, that sucks. Like, I don't know if I can walk that far.
I'm always trying to, you know, every time I see a character without shoes on, I'm like, something's gonna happen. Yeah. Something's, you know.
It would slow me down. I wouldn't be able to do it. I'd be dead.
Well, and it's a thing, that there's certain things that you do,
Yeah.
So the shoeless character is a thing. They're going to step on glass. It's like the scene in
it's Die Hard.
In Die Hard, or in the Emily Blunt movie where
when she steps on the nail.
Ooh. That one got me.
That is awful.
Mm-hmm.
That is engraved in my memory because I would have screamed.
And it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like that movie did its job because you and I have that stuck in our brains.
Yeah. I don't know. It was really good. I was so interested about the home and just making it into like a horror sort of home and be scared in there. I think you did a tremendous job.
Thank you. It was really a great experience, I have to say. And there's, it's one of those projects that you look back on, or that I look back on, and I'm just so glad I did it, and I enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah.
It was just a great experience. Working with John he's a dream director to work with, and the producers, gave me everything I needed to do the job properly.
That is a dream job.
Yeah, and it's like, and I was able to form some really great relationships. I've done a couple of other projects with those producers because of this,
awesome.
And it's everybody wanted to make the best movie they could. And we all knew the limitations that we had, and we all were able to work within that and bend as needed to, and pivot when we needed to, like we got there and the lake level was down to a point where we couldn't go there. Like we couldn't get to the lake because the water was so low.
Oh no. So how'd that work out?
We moved it to another location.
Oh, no way.
We built the pier. Yeah. Like we couldn't get there from our house. We tried, but it was, if you came off the back of the house, it was like some really steep, sharp embankments down to a very rocky beach to get there. And so we, went down a couple of times, and there was like a rickety old staircase, and I was trying to figure out how to build a pier on that, down there. So we built all that other stuff, and it ultimately made it so much easier
just to move.
Because there was a public beach probably on the same lake. The lake was sort of a big horseshoe kind of, and our house was in the middle of it. So there was a big public area down. So we just built it there and did some fancy. John had to be very contained with what he was able to
showing back at the house. Yeah, thinking about it now, I don't know, or if it's just in the background. It's just like, there was trees back there and you had to walk down to the lake. Like, that's awesome.
I mean, you see the lake from the house for sure.
Yeah.
And because of how high up it is, you can't tell how low the water is. But it was not suitable for us to do what we wanted to do.
It's always something.
Yeah. I mean, but if that was like the worst thing we had to deal with, it's funny.
Yeah.
I've been talking to people about the movie, and they're like, well, what was your biggest challenge? And I'm like, it's one of those movies that I didn't have a ton of challenges on it. It was just a good experience all the way around.
That's great. That's what we want to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like, and I think part of that is like maybe what was challenging didn't feel as challenging because I had such a good team and a good supportive team around us, that it was just problem solving as opposed to dealing with, it's like, I didn't feel like my hair was on fire. I didn't feel like anyone was pressuring me to do anything. I didn't feel like, there were unreal.
It's as you said, like, it just sounds like you had good producers who knew how to prep a movie and a good director who knew what he wanted, and then working together, it all kind of helps. You all help each other in that, getting it all done. It's it's a lot.
And we had all just lived through a pandemic as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That feeling that we were going for those first days of the pandemic when everybody was so scared and didn't know what was happening, and all of us were sort of revisiting all of that emotion that we all had,
Yeah, I remember, when you start working through it, and me and my crew would have like happy hour Zooms and being like, all right, does anybody take some pictures? Because in 2 years we're going to be doing a movie about the pandemic. Like, right. Everybody get their 6 feet away signage and the floors on, the stickers on the floor. And
I mean, the grocery store scene was a fun one to do, and we really played that up. Yeah. Like that, we were going for that sort of very post-apocalyptic feel, that it was like just on the edge of comical is what we wanted to achieve, because we were more interested in evoking that feeling that we had, when we were out of food, and I was watching the news and the Beverly Hills Vons with no food. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I was seeing pictures posted of like friends of mine, this was all I got at the grocery store. Yeah. And it's like a sad head of lettuce and some expired sausage or something, Yeah. So it was, we were definitely trying to get there. And so all that plastic sheeting and stuff was, was a little bit of an invention in terms of like, but it also just helps. It was like, how do we not have to move all of these things?
Exactly. Genius.
And anytime I can use plastic sheeting in a movie, it seems to be, I love it.
I think too. I mean, it's so fresh, but then you do forget, like, oh god damn, I had to wipe down on my fruit. I had to do all that, and like, it's the 6 feet away signs are still kind of up a lot because people have forgotten to take them down, so that's not it. But it's like the shelves and everything you remember, but like coming home, wiping all the shit down, putting it, or letting it sit outside for a little bit and then bringing it in, and like
you couldn't open an Amazon package without the Lysol wipes and the hoarding of the Lysol wipes. And I remember going to Target. I was actually in New Orleans on March 13th. Oh. Actually, I was in Orlando on March 13th, coming from New Orleans. I was scouting a show. And Orlando was where we had just heard the news that's where there was that's where the epicenter had been, is what they were thinking. And so walking through the Orlando airport, like losing my mind, like, oh my God, I'm going to infect my child and my husband when I get home. So like, I still remembered all of that fear because I was out in what I considered to be the middle. Right. And then having a child and not knowing how any of that was. And so it's like, I think all of us were able to really just sort of channel that, especially all of the LA people. I think the Utah people had a little bit of a different take on it. Yeah.
I mean, waiting in line for Trader Joe's for like 45 minutes before you could get in because they would only let 20 people in at a time. But also, I'm in the same boat with you because they were 15 months when it happened. So your baby must have been 5 months old.
Hopper was, my son's name is Hopper. He was 3 months old. He was born January 2020.
Yeah. I mean, I just cried every day. I cried every day making their breakfast of like, I don't know what today's going to bring, but we're going to have a great time in this apartment.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, wow, I get a maternity leave.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And as it grew on, I was like, I don't think we can go back to work. I know it's been 4 months, but I feel like I don't think we can go back to work yet because I was like, this is awesome. I don't have any pressure to get a job. I can enjoy my kids. This is awesome. Like, no, I liked it. I was scared to death, but I liked
my
it.
Time off. A great deal. I mean, it's funny because I look back and I'm like, I really didn't do a lot. And then I'm like, wait, I raised a kid. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was busy. Like,
I was still
because all of my peers are like, they learned all the programs they'd never learned, and like now I'm doing Rhino because I have nothing. I'm like,
no. I still had a call time every day. Like I was
applesauce.
Yeah,
how to eat like that.
Yeah, making food and discovering YouTube. And watching garbage trucks out the window. That was our life. So, yeah. Yeah. Alrighty. Well, thank you. This was awesome. I'm so glad to have met you.
I know. Thank you.
It really is a small community.
I looked you up, obviously, and I'm quite impressed with your body of work as well.
Thank you.
So
I try.
Continue to do good work. I was listening to a couple of your other podcasts. The one I was just listening to was Derek Hill, because he's somebody that you just look up to so much.
I do.
I've followed his career, obviously. And we both worked on House.
Oh, nice.
I didn't work with him.
You didn't. You missed him. I love Derek. I'm probably gonna talk to him again about that. You know, I do some of these interviews on the weekends, and I was surprised that she was working. Like, when she popped up on my screen, I could tell it was an office. And I was like, uh-oh. Because I feel bad, because I know that if you're working the weekends, it kind of sucks. But it's true. You do get some shit done, because there's not a million phone calls, and I could see why. Doing a podcast interview is also, if you're in the office and you're checking on set as an art director, I'm just glad I didn't interrupt her while she was working, but very appreciative of her time. I did enjoy that movie. I mean, I'm not big on horror movies anymore, but such a crazy take on COVID and turning it into a horror film. It's interesting. I don't want to give things away. That's what I'm trying to do, but yeah. I really applaud her for taking on these projects and traveling with her family and pursuing to be a production designer path. I mean, bravo. Because when I started out, I wanted to be a production designer. But I kind of quickly realized that the path to being a production designer means being an art director. And as I came to work in different art departments, I realized it was going to take a long time. And you would be stuck as an art director for like a long time. It just seemed like that. Like, everything seemed like a long time in my late 20s, early 30s. Like, everything did. So, but I also realized that set decorating was what I really wanted to do, and I switched paths. So, but I mean, little did I know, I should have stuck it out with being an art director. I would have been paid $1,000 more a week, right? Wonk wonk. 1,000 more than a set decorator off the bat. Nice. Yeah, really took the wrong turn there, Kim. But I'd hate it. I wouldn't be a good art director. I'm not. That position's not for me. It's a hard position, like they all are. And it's I always think it was like I just feel like every art director wants to be a production designer. I know I'm wrong. Some people like being art directors and want to be that position and have no, that's it. That's their goal. They made it. Awesome. I always feel like an art director is making other people's dreams come true. Like, you're not the designer of it, and you're facilitating all of these and coordinating things and budget and the construction and the graphics, and you're kind of, whipping people. So, I don't know, but it's not the easiest position to be in, and I just know I wouldn't be a good one. So, yeah. Anyway, very thankful that she had time on her weekend to talk to me. And so check out Sick on Amazon, and seriously, check out her website, JennyMöller.com, JennyMoller.com. She's got some great sketches of her process, and I really enjoyed looking at that. So, yeah. I have some great interviews lined up in the next couple weeks. I'm taking next week off, so settle down. I'll be back Easter week, though, with Maya Siegel, who is a production designer of Hello Tomorrow. So binge that before the next interview. It's awesome. It's on Apple. I have Catherine Eder, production designer of BFM and Hellraiser. Jordan Ninkovich, the production designer of Hoax, and really funny. We talk a lot about Hallmark films and everything, because that's how he started and I started, and so it's another path to help anyone out there if you want to go that way, which is great. And set decorator Regina Graves of HBO's The Gilded Age, Many Saints of Newark, The Irishman. I could go on and on about her resume. Awesome sauce. So again, hit up the Decorating Pages shop on Etsy. Follow Decorating Pages on IG and TikTok. And as always, just hit those 5 little stars. The 5-star podcast, right? As I misspelled the podcast. But thank you for listening. I hope you got an earful. I'm Kim Wanna for Decorating Pages.
Welcome to Pro Tips for the Pros, brought to you by Floor & Decor Bailey's Crossroads. In this series, we'll explore essential advice for professional contractors to deliver outstanding renovation results. Let's dive in. Before starting any renovation project, take the time to plan meticulously. Assess the customer's needs, budget, and timeline to ensure a smooth and successful renovation process. Thank you for joining us for this pro tip on planning thorough renovations. Stay tuned for more expert advice brought to you by Floor & Decor Bailey's Crossroads.
A lot of people tolerate ordinary. Ordinary bathrooms, kitchens, entryways. Well, not on your watch. If you're a pro, you've got a new partner in town. Floor & Decor. From tile to wood to stone, Floor & Decor has more styles and job lot quantities of Schluter, Mapei, Laticrete, and other brands pros trust. Come see a whole new way to wow with Floor & Decor. Coming soon to Bailey's Crossroads.